So welcome everyone. Thank you very much for coming and coming early. The first part of this, we need to do our AGM report for 2023. It won't take an awful long time, but we'll put the full report onto our web pages. And then afterwards, it's a chance to talk about what we know about ChatGPT. So I'm actually going to just be screen person and hand over first of all to Lindsay for starting off the Convenors Report.
Thank you, Carol. Can I just check, are you moving the slides as well?
Yeah.
Good. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. So along with Carol, I'm one of the co-conveners of the SIG, and this is our brief report of what's been going on in the last year. So one of the first things to mention is that we've had a few committee changes. So with us today is our new treasurer, Christina Laporda, and Christina's taking the role on following Judith Gorham, who has started an ND, so won't have time to be in the SIG anymore. But we want to formally record our thanks to Judith in absentia, and welcome Christina very warmly to our SIG. And I'm sure we'll be getting a chance to get to know Christina a bit better. We also have to thank Blair Matthews, who was with us right from the start of the SIG when we were getting things off the ground, and he was one of our co-web coordinators, but he's demitted as well. He has a new family to think about. So thanks to Blair as well. But we do have, he was a co-web coordinator along with Olga, and there was a lot of groundwork at the beginning, so we feel we can cope with one web coordinator. So we're not looking to replace Blair at the moment. We've had a very busy year, as you'll see later on in the AGM. We'll talk a little bit more about the different events and talks that we've been organising, and now that we're kind of into our second year, we've built up a bit of momentum there. We are pleased to report that we're developing quite a diverse and international profile. So we've been not only attending, but as a SIG, we've also been presenting at national and international conferences. So we're really trying to reach a global audience and not just be too UK centric, although the committee itself is based mostly in the UK. And the other bit of news is that if you were with us right from the beginning, you'll have heard us talk about our mapping survey that we want to do to get a sense of the CPD needs of the EAP practitioner. That took a little bit of a pause as things got busy, but we plan to recommence this year with that. So look out for us looking for information about your CPD and how you develop yourself, or indeed how your institution builds a CPD program for you. So I think we can move on to the next slide, I think, Carol. So following from that was the little bit of convener report. We are going to have reports from different members of the committee, or speaking for members of the committee who can't be with us today. And I think I'm passing over now to Rafaela to talk a little bit about our membership.
Okay, hi everyone. I will be talking about the membership, and it has really grown in the last year. We now have 171 members, 105 of which are valid members. We recently circulated a survey to find out a bit more about our members, and the responses indicate that we have members from over 10 different countries. So we have people here from Japan. We have a lot of members from the UK, but definitely some members from Greece, China, etc. So Latin America as well. So we kind of have members from all the continents. We have 90 JISC mail subscribers. I think that's in yellow because I forgot to update it. Apologies for that. I will do that soon. And we also have been sending membership certificates as well as certificates of attendance. I will be sharing the link for membership as soon as I finish speaking, and please feel free to join and contribute. Thank you. I will find that link now.
So we're back to me again. I am also a co-signatory as a treasurer, along with Christina, our new treasurer. So because she's literally just joined us, I'm going to speak to our very small budgetary issues. If Carol moves the slide forward, I will do that. Thanks, Carol. So these are our very simple accounts, possibly so simple that even I can understand them. As a SIG, we get £200 from Bali, and what we've really been using that for, as you can see, is to get around a little bit. And so we've been able to make contributions to fund 2 of our committee members to go to Crete to the EAP conference that was organised there to speak about the SIG and to promote the SIG there as well. We also, coming up soon, we are going to be presenting online at the UNNC, the Nottingham Ningbo conference, and so we have spent a little bit of money there as well, and I think that's pretty much it. So our current balance is £152. As I said, it's very simple budget.
And sorry, that's my typo with the 2400 on the 2023. I was trying to copy things into the Google. So
that's yes.
Okay.
So it's £100, but not 23.
Yeah. Okay. We also got free cards.
Yes, we did.
So
yes, so we've got little promotional cards which were free, and which, when we do attend different meetings and conferences and events, we are able to give people those so that they've got a small memory of our SIG and what we do. Okay, what are we moving on to now, Carol?
We're moving on to Angeliki, who's going to cover web and social media and events, I think, for us.
Yeah. Okay, so our main social media means used to reach audiences and people, and encouraging them to become members have been Twitter and YouTube so far. But we have been using individual committee member LinkedIn accounts as well. What we try to do is to reach audiences by advertising our events on our social media means, and we try to maintain a customized profile in all our social media. As you can see in the next slide, we've got 351 followers on Twitter, which is about 130 more compared to last year, which means that people find us interesting and follow us. And we also have 91 subscribers in our YouTube channel, where we post most of the recordings of events or parts of them for practitioners who do not attend our events and who are interested in catching up with what we've been doing. Yeah, okay, that's about it. And we will share the links to our YouTube and Twitter channels later. As for events, we've organized various types of events addressing both individual and institutional needs. They range from TEEP charters to what else? To BALIP TEEP accreditation scheme, the revised accreditation scheme updates. And in the next slide, we can see that participants are eagerly joining our events. Our members are very eager, and the satisfaction rates on the whole are very positive. Lindsay?
Yes, I can swoop in here. So we obviously have more events planned. So this is what's in the pipeline. As I mentioned, Carol and Stella and I will be talking online at the University of Nottingham Bow Conference. I'm talking a little bit about the work of the SIG, but also about approaches to practitioner development in EAP. We will definitely have more TEEP fellowship chatters of the kind that we're having after this AGM meeting, and we would warmly welcome any suggestions. We can choose ideas, but it's much better if our membership have ideas to share with us that they would like us to facilitate. We do reading circles, and more to come, which I think is code for we haven't quite decided yet, but we will be planning a full schedule of events. So as well as welcoming your suggestions, we also very much welcome sort of more active participation. And if you'd like to give a talk, do get in touch with us, and you've got a form there. But again, you can find this link on our website, but there's a form there that you can fill in if you've got an idea for something that you would like to host or to have us facilitate, a particular puzzle that you have or research that you've done yourself in matters of EAP teacher education. Carol, future plans. I can keep going. I can't remember who was doing this slide. I'll just keep going. So future direction. So this is what we're doing in 2023, what we're planning. So as I mentioned already, we did a little bit of groundwork. We workshopped at the BALEAP conference in Glasgow in 2022, was it, Carol? 21? 21. We workshopped the idea of how we could map us or get a survey of what the state of CPD and EAP looks like, and we're definitely going to get going on that again. We have two very distinct constituent groups. So it's in our membership, there's the group who are seeking individual CPD, who maybe don't have the same access that others enjoy institutionally. But we also have a group of people who actually design and deliver teacher education and CPD programs within institutions. And so we're constantly working to develop those two strands. And I think we've done quite a lot in terms of individual practitioner development, but we're also keen to work closely with our other constituent group of colleagues who actually design and do things like induction, etc. We definitely will have more events, as I've said, and please do get in touch with us if you would like to propose something. We're also hoping to develop the idea of a blog or a vlog and explore moderated discussions, and maybe make more use of a discussion list as another means of connecting with each other. We are looking always, as you know, BALEAP has a great range of wonderful SIGs, and so we're looking to collaborate with some of those other SIGs, perhaps do joint research, perhaps co-present. I think the Transnational Education SIG has been quite keen to do something with us. We also want to develop the resource section of our web page, so that's a plan for the future as well, so that people can come to that as a place to look for ideas either for their own individual development or for ideas if they've been asked to design CPD for colleagues in their own institutions. But it is a SIG made up of members, and so we're just the committee. So really also we want to know what you want as well. So please do get in touch with us. You can tweet, as Angeliki pointed out, we've got several means of communication, but you can tweet, you can use our gist mail, etc., and follow us and suggest things. So that is the end of our AGM. It's a bit of a rattle through, but would anyone like to ask any questions or make any comments? You could either raise your hand or you can put something in the chat. I might have a quick look at the chat. See, Chris. Yeah. Yes, Chris, that does very much sound along the lines. Would you like to fill in a proposal?
I can certainly give it a go. Yeah, sure, no
Yeah,
problem.
fantastic. Yeah.
Fill in a
it's
proposal
quite-
and we'll get in touch with you.
Yeah, it's quite a hands-on approach, but I'm sure I have had a go at doing it on a digital platform, so I'm sure we could do something along those lines using Padlet, or I know Jamboard has been used as well, so I'm sure it could be modified in some way.
Yeah,
That
no,
would
that
be
sounds
yeah.
good.
So one of the questions is also, is everything online? And so far, everything we've done, well, everything has been online or at least streamed online. I think if we ever did do anything face to face, we would make sure it's hybrid, because we have got people from around the world and we want to make sure that we maintain that as well. And the resources, so Chris, if it works and you let us, we can record that and put it up on the web pages. Angela, if you want to do anything with the vlog blog, we're really interested in seeing what we can do in a manageable phase. But we're adding things. We add all the PowerPoints and recordings of any things to our resources. And one point we asked for contributions or ideas what goes on it. We're still working on that so that it's specifically EAP there. I think, Rafaela, do you want to say something about the JISC mail? Because there was a question.
Oh, I didn't see the question.
Oh, maybe there wasn't. Maybe it was my question.
Let me see. The JISC mail is basically just a mailing list that we use to share information. It can also be used for discussions, similarly to what happens with the Bali JISC mail, but it will have a smaller number of subscribers. So I am going to share the link now for the JISC mail. You can click on the link to subscribe and stay informed about our event.
Yeah, because we advertise obviously in Twitter and the Barleap list. But if you're not a Barleap member, join our JISC mail there as well. I thank you, Lindsay's responded to the questions about the time zones. We do mix it up sometimes, don't we? Try and get a little bit earlier. You can suggest times for us as well there. Are there any other questions or comments at this stage? In which case, we will move on to possibly the more exciting part, the discussion there. I think we're like all of the SIGs. Oh, sorry, just, all of the Barleap SIGs, and we should plug all of them. They're all free to join. You don't actually need to join a SIG to go to any of the events, but it does mean that you're likely to get mailings sooner, and we need to have a certain membership in order to be constituted, although we've got plenty. But do share information of our SIG and other SIGs. I'll put the link in the chat, because there's a huge variety. We're obviously teacher education, but there's law, there's intersessional, there's TNE, there's listening, there's assessment. You join the lot of them and get lots of mailings and events, and most of them all have web pages where they add things as well. But do spread the word. The more we have joining, the better. We fight for discussions. Okay, so in order to entice you to our AGM, we also thought we'll do a TEEP chatter. So the TEEP chatters are really when we don't have a speaker, but we've got a topic. It might be related to TEEP fellowship. It might be related to something that's been coming up in our field, or talks, something that springs to mind. And since ChatGPT has been over everything like a rash since before Christmas, I remember just before Christmas, one of my students on our MEd said, "Have you seen this, Carol?" He said, "It will write essays." We were in a writing session. So it seemed quite interesting. And you'll have seen it in higher education. Universities are bringing out more stringent or less stringent policies. It's in general media and obviously higher education media. So we thought we would do that. And basically what we're going to do is let you talk about it. So we're going to share a link to a worksheet, which has got 3 sets of questions. We'd suggest when you get into the breakout rooms, and we thought we'd do around about 4 people, so you've got a chance to talk. Introduce yourself. Who are you? Are you in an Anglophone or an EMI context? Just so you know. And then we'd suggest you spend round about 10 minutes or so on each of the areas. They are guiding questions. What do you know about it? What have you heard about it? Have you tried it? Particularly, obviously, for us, we're interested, what do EAP teachers need to know? So what are the key factors that you think should be included in workshops, inductions? We can probably collate these probably at the end. She says, thinking on her feet. And then the third one is exploring ChatGPT responses. So we asked it some questions, and you'll see what it said about EAP, teacher development. And there's something about references at the end there. So I'm just going to stop this share just now and set you up into breakout rooms.
I've just shared the worksheet that Carol has done to, to start the discussion or to help you during your discussion.
Okay. And we thought we would give you 35 minutes or so. Please keep a list, particularly of number 2, of things that you think EAP teachers should know, because that'll be useful for us. And then there'll be some time at the end for us to have a bit of a roundup, any comments that you want to make. We've got questions at the end, but I'm not sure that we can necessarily answer the questions. But you can certainly raise them and discuss them. Okay. We'll almost certainly come and pop in so that we can join the discussions. They will be opening now. It should flash up in front of you. I'm just going to move.
26 people, Carol, huh?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm just moving some people around so that they are in a room. Move to room 4. Okay, so Angeliki, Raffaella, and Lindsay and us have kept us out of. I'm just going to close those.
There was no one in room 6.
No, I moved them out. So because it was you and Raffaella. Okay. So I'm just moving them into a room where there are other people.
I don't know what happened to Lida. She sent an email saying she can't log in, but
I sent her the login details.
Me too.
But,
I did twice, but yeah.
So maybe want to have a go and look in that room 1 and see.
Yeah, I think that's. Let me see if
Lida can't log in for some reason. I don't know.
Okay, hold on.
Should one of us join group 1 then?
Yeah, do you maybe want to? I'll send a note to Leda.
I'll join then.
Okay.
And there are 2 people who have not joined any rooms yet.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll just wait. You go to a room if you like.
Can you send me to a room? How can I go? Can I choose which one I want?
I think you should be able to choose your co-host, but I can. Where would you? Maybe I'll move you to.
Don't go to room 7 because everyone disappeared when I popped up.
Yeah, no, because there was only a couple of people in it. I'll send you to 2, Angeliki.
Okay.
Sorry, some of the rooms had mainly us, so I just redistributed.
Okay. I thought I was taking it personally. I thought, oh goodness, scared them off already. I haven't even said.
Okay. So we've been in breakout rooms discussing what we know about GPT, challenges, affordances, and this is a roundup of points that came up. Yeah, Chris, where do we start? Do you want to start from what people were saying in our room?
Oh, good Lord. We talked about it so much. I don't honestly think I'd be able to summarize it all.
Some of the points?
um,
So, for example, uses that it could be.
Yeah. So, one of the uses that I have read about recently was about how Chat GPT could be used to offer personalized feedback to students, where you can just copy and paste work into Chat GPT and ask the bot to produce some feedback based on that text. For me, I can see how that would be a bit of a time saver, but ethically and in terms of GDPR data protection, the fact that the language bot learns from the input that's given, that is going to be in there. That data is going to be out there, and it will formulate its future responses based on that language. So, in terms of using it for that kind of thing, I'm not too sure ethically whether I sit okay with that. The other things that we talked about as well was how it could be used to generate texts for comparative reasons, so or for comparative uses. So you could ask. I think this was I can't remember if it was Natalia or Angela who said that you could create a text that's written in 2 different ways. So how would it be written from a legal perspective and so on? And you could get students to compare the 2 texts. We looked at the possibility of using it more as almost like a glorified dictionary, where recently I had a student who was an MA student in education who came across the term epistemology. And you could just type in a prompt into ChatGPT saying, could you explain the term epistemology in simpler terms or in basic terms? And it would reword a definition using more simpler terminology. So just using it more as a glorified dictionary. But yeah, the uses are endless. You could, yeah, it's like what Lawrence said. You could sit here for weeks and still not come to the end of the conversation. So, have I missed anything? I probably have missed a lot. Z, is there anything that you wanted to add? I can't remember if there's anything else.
Okay, yeah, I think your point is about how to use ChatGPT and your lesson, and I think my point is about based on ChatGPT, because we cannot shift back to the era before ChatGPT. So what changes do we need to assess the student to make sure that they develop their academic skills, and to make sure that they not only rely on ChatGPT, and I think we discussed that to change the rubric. Maybe we lower the percentage of the language for the writing, and then we can give more weight for the skills related to synthesis and evaluation and analysis. Yes, and also we mentioned that maybe we can change the way. For example, maybe currently we ask students to submit an essay, but maybe in the future, some tutors are changing now. We can introduce the Viva or the presentation to ask a student to speak out their ideas. So I think the essence is that we are maybe focus more on the process of their thinking rather than the product of the writing. And I think also we raised a very interesting point is about the ownership. For example, if students write an essay themselves, but in their in their first language, and they do the translation, maybe via Google Translation or via ChatGPT, and what is the ownership? Is ownership and I think we all agree that the ideas are from the students, definitely. But for the language problem, we talk about that because as tutors, we have personal touch with students and we know the level of the students. So we need to, consider that, and there is no right or wrong answers. I think, that's my summary.
Yeah, we also had it using as, because it's a question of ChatGPT can't claim ownership, even though because it's pulling from other things. I suppose it's how students have it. And we talked about students' needs. It will all depend on, particularly on EAP courses. If we're teaching EAP, then we need to be able to demonstrate their language compared to their development, compared to concept courses and content courses. But we were also talking, I think, Chris, you had the using ChatGPT, and Angela did as well, as prompts. So it can generate questions for students to discuss, generate questions to help you review, practice.
Yeah, so where you have students who are practicing seminar discussions, for example, rather than having the teacher on hand to facilitate, they could use the bot, put a laptop in the middle of the table and actually have a discussion with the bot based on the answers generated by the students in the group. So that also has some kind of, well, this kind of motivational aspect to it, because they have a level of autonomy and there's not a huge amount of reliance on the teacher being there to guide the discussion.
One of the other, I'm frantically typing away, so we've got a record of things that came up. So is that many of the other rooms like to report? And hi, Peter, haven't seen you for years.
Can I say something from our group? I think we had the same thing. There was a sort of a split. We could see the learning possibilities from it, but we focused mainly in the end probably on the assessment side. And when Z, I think, said you can't go back to before, well, you actually can. And that was my point. You can go back in terms of assessment. And what I think Socrates said a long time ago is anything that's just written is not very important and doesn't do much for learning and new knowledge. So I don't think chat would do very well in a Viva. And even at foundation levels, we already have Vivas. Every student does one foundation. So if you get chat to write something, you have a Viva on it and you don't know what questions are going to be asked. If you don't understand it, you're probably not going to do very well. And we raised the weighting of the Viva already this year. So that's one thing. And the second thing, because Ernesto made some comments on that, and someone else did in our group, I can't remember who it was, but if someone said, what if you asked chat to forecast the questions that would come up in the Viva, which is possible because chat wrote the submission to begin with, but then the student would have to learn the wrong way round, but sort of in reverse, the answers to the questions they should have been writing about to begin with. So learning would take place. Do you see what I mean? So they've had no input on what's been written by chat, but then chat's created questions about what chat wrote. And through preparing for the Viva, the student will then actually do what they were supposed to do to start with. So I found that the most interesting. That's it.
Hopefully I've got that right there. Anything from any other rooms, or is that the rooms? Is that us? Have any of you come across any policies? I know in our university they took their time rather than trying to decide early, and at the moment it's we can't really tell at the moment.
We've got a guidance document at Edinburgh. It's not, they're not calling it a policy, but kind of a rough guide to ChatGPT and how to work with students on it, which I think is quite an interesting approach. So it's not punitive, but it's pointing out to students ways in which ChatGPT can be used, but just to be treated as another kind of source, and that they have to, that the human factor is important. They still have to verify and, you know, check the authority of what ChatGPT comes up with. And there's also a bit really directed towards staff, I guess, about integrating, I suppose, AI literacy into their courses, which obviously is something that we can be doing in EAP as well. But it's very much, I would say, guidance rather than policy. And there is a reminder to students about, you know, what happens if you do, if it is deemed that you have used it inappropriately.
Yeah, I haven't come across a policy as such, but I know of a document produced by UNESCO recently. Actually, I'm going to share the link with you, where they pretty much advocate for the use of ChatGPT, but in a very collaborative, ethical, and proactive way, let's say. So I'm just going to share it and to share the link on the chat box. And I think that it's worth reading.
I think we've had changes to our academic integrity policy. So ghosting now includes ChatGPT as well. Yeah. So it doesn't prohibit the use of ChatGPT as such. It needs to be acknowledged, although it's less clear, not very clear how. But if a piece of work is entirely produced by ChatGPT, so it's treated as ghosting or track cheating.
Yeah, and what UNESCO is doing is advocating for the use of ChatGPT to develop students' digital literacy, critical thinking, and responsible AI use. But at the same time, they are calling for a broader and more comprehensive, let's say, approach to this, and perhaps to develop a framework, certain guidelines, but not only with the participation of all stakeholders, including our students. So yeah, that's an interesting call.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it's to a certain extent, talking about it makes me think it's the same but different, as people presumably it'll blow the essay mill writing industry to smithereens, right? That won't be needed anymore. So I mean, we've had some issues with I guess for the small numbers, or maybe larger numbers, it's how to use it effectively, isn't it? Yeah, I'm just very aware of the time. I don't know if any of you got to look at the responses. This is maybe something you can look at later, but on the worksheet, I thought, well, it's on ChatGPT. I'll ask it some questions. And the questions that were, you can have a look at them and compare, because it's kind of interesting to see what it comes up with. So it was, I asked it about the implications for English for academic purposes, and it gave some there. And then I asked it for teacher education. Didn't give an awful lot. It kind of did the same thing, but in a slightly different way. You can maybe look and analyze them. And then I asked for specific academic purposes, and it added something about domain specific. But I don't know that it was quite interesting. It's Natalia and I was saying in our room, you know, you get that certain sense of sameness when something's produced artificially, and you can probably spot that in the outputs that it gave. But I did at the bottom of the handout put in some references. So I was trying to find references related to, and I'm sure they'll come, ChatGPT and academic writing and EAP. And I couldn't find anything yet specific, but I did find some that are in the disciplines. So you might want to have a browse through some of them. So there seems to have been more in the sciences so far, testing it out from physics and chemistry and what it can do and what it can't do. They're worth a skim. But then I also asked it, to create some references for me. And it gave, so educational technology research, Journal of English Academic Purposes, entirely made up. I went and searched through 9 of them. None of them are in our library or Google. The second time it gave me a mix of looks okay. So there's Flower, Dew and Peacock. And then another one also looked okay, Jeep, but the article wasn't. So I guess it's interesting to see what it will create from students there. But the research to see what's happening and what it can do, I think is important. I think it's important for EAP teachers to know what it can and can't do and what's happening. Peter, you've got your hand up.
Yeah. I presume that ChatGPT won't be very good when it comes to referencing specific academic papers, and it's not got access to the relevant papers for that particular discussion. It's always going to be in general terms, I would have thought.
I saw something on Twitter the other day with someone saying that there are extensions that you can add to ChatGPT so that it does. I haven't tried it out, but that sounds like that's coming.
Oh dear, really me. Okay, would it pass Turnitin, I wonder?
I think one of the papers I skimmed, it entirely passes Turnitin, because Turnitin all depend on what's in its repository.
Oh, there you go.
That's as far as I know.
It does produce a separate report now. So it produces, in addition to the similarity report, it has an AI report. I'm not sure how it works, but it seems to pick up sort of linguistic clues that may suggest that this is.
Is there any data? Is there any data on how much it's being used in various sectors? And does ChatGPT also produce data on what topic areas are being asked about? We might be discussing something that isn't really used that much. Unless we've got some sort of data on how much it's used, it's rather speculation, isn't it?
Yeah, I think round about Christmas, and this is secondhand, someone told me that even around about Christmas, Stanford had already started developing software that would detect it within student writing, and there was quite a lot, but I don't know of any papers yet. We want to ask ChatGPT, but also university database search.
They are supposed to be open, so they may well be open to those sorts of questions.
Yeah, they wouldn't necessarily know if it's used in student papers, though, would they? Because they won't know how someone uses it after.
Well, that's true, but there are certain things, certain subject areas that sounds academic. If it's things to do with how to make a cherry pie, that we can consider that's probably not academic. There'll probably be areas you can. I mean, how many medical inquiries are there, for example, compared to physics, atomic physics?
Good questions to look at. Oh, right, Phil. So it's unreliable. Is it not finding?
Yeah, I think with both. It's maybe suggesting something is AI generated that isn't in some cases, and in some cases not seeing that something's AI generated. And I think if you're basing any sort of judgments on that, you'd want a bit more reliability, a bit more certainty that it's detecting things correctly. I suppose it could give you some guide, but I wonder if really there's any way that you can really. I mean, I suppose Turnitin just shows the match, and that's pretty clear cut. It matches. It doesn't mean it's plagiarism necessarily, but it's a match, which I don't think you can really get from the AI. So I'm not overly hopeful on that front.
Yeah. I suppose it's very specific issues as well within language and EAP teaching, in that our aim is to try and develop academic language skills and literacies, and that's what we're assessing a lot of the time, as well as how they articulate the content. So it's fascinating. Teachers may be tempted to use it to create. Oh, I think there is Angeliki using Academic. Do you mean content in terms of materials or research outputs?
No, materials.
Yeah, we were talking that in our room about how it could be used, and Natalia said you can also set it to level to modify text.
Yeah, I've used it to sort of start generating ideas for a listening test, for example, that you know generates lots of ideas and you work from those. I think that's got potential. Also, you know, I was saying in my group, I've done some work on student use of exemplars before. And I think what could be quite interesting is students generating examples, both convergent examples and divergent examples for comparison purposes, and somehow incorporating that into an assessment design. I think that might have some future uses, but yeah, not got that far yet of actually trying it. But.
Yeah.
Edinburgh's guidance talks about that, and it talks about you know, perhaps some of your subjects, some of your lecturers will be using ChatGPT in terms of assessment, and you know, they'll be sort of asking you to maybe critically evaluate something that's being produced by ChatGPT. So sort of trying to embed academic or digital literacies into the assessments as well. And I think that's what we probably need to be thinking about as teachers in terms of developing ourselves. It's actually not, I mean, the genie is out the bottle and it's out the lamp anyway. So I think it's about harnessing it for good and not necessarily assuming it's going to be something evil and students are just going to, you know, let's not think the worst of students.
But also, like as Lawrence was saying, it's depending on how you assess them, they can show their abilities to understand knowledge. Maybe it's just reverse engineering. It's like, that's the answer. What was your question? Insight. Yeah. Okay, well, it's 14:23. I will save the chat and probably clean it up a bit, and then we can share it, because we've tried to put the summary there and all the really useful links that people have provided here. Thank you very much. Has anyone got anything else they want to say at the moment? And/or do you want another session on ChatGPT? Could be on materials.
I'd like to know how you get it to ask questions. I've asked it questions and it's given me answers, but how you do it the other way around, I would like to know. A number of colleagues have mentioned that.
Okay. Chris is saying 12 hours, 1 a month. It's a bit like when COVID happened and everyone had a webinar a week on how to use Zoom. Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll think about that if anyone wants to lead any sessions or discussions within it, particularly with a focus on EAP teacher education and what we need as teachers and what skills and literacies we can develop. Okay. Thank you, Sturgiani. Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.